My name is Helen. Online, I'm Hels on Wheels. And in the last few years since we spoke, I've been predominantly cycling through the Middle East and North Africa.
Amazing. And we're going to be digging into those details. So I'll just remind everybody of when we first chatted. So we probably actually spoke at the end of 2021 because your episode came out on January 20th, 2022. And during that episode, we do learn more about your childhood and growing up in the UK, living in Australia for 10 years, going on a round the world gap year at 26, why you've never stopped cycling. You talked about some of the different adventures that you've had, from taking the train from Asia back to Europe, finding a teaching job in Korea, traveling to the UK along the Silk Road. You've shared magical moments. You've shared like type 2 fun. You've shared challenges of being robbed while in Greece and the lessons that you've learned along the way. You also share more about setting up your YouTube channel and how it's going, traveling on an Aussie $100 per week, and Patreon and PayPal and how that's been working out for you. So it was such a great conversation. So I definitely recommend that everyone goes back and listens to that, because we are now catching up with you. I was just going through the years because like we spoke in 2022 and now we're in 2026. So a lot has gone on and a lot has changed, but you're still out there living your best lifestyle, like cycling around the world. So yeah, take us back to the beginning of 2022. I don't know how easy this is for you to remember, but where were you? What were you doing at that point?
I'm still reeling from that quick run through of my travel biography. That's mad to hear it all listed out to me like that. Yeah, so in the last 4 years then, we will have spoken when I was in Turkey and I was on my way to Lebanon. So that was at the end of 2021. So I was excited about that. It was also pretty nerve-wracking because, again, not many people take that route from the ferry from Turkey to Lebanon. And this was, I mean, things haven't improved in Lebanon since, but this was shortly after the port explosion. Like, the economy was doing really badly, and it was a strange time to be in Lebanon, but it was also a superb experience. But then from Lebanon at the time, you couldn't continue overland from Lebanon, so I flew home. I surprised my family for Christmas that year, and then in the early part of 2022, I set off again. This time heading towards Iran, which obviously is no place to go right now either, through Iran and into the Middle East. And that's where I've been for the last couple of years. I was in the north of Africa this year on my way back from the Middle East. I got as far as Saudi Arabia before the war in Sudan meant I had to change directions. And that was how I ended up in North Africa.
Oh my goodness. So many adventures, so many stories. I'm going to go to a practical place, first of all, which may not seem the most interesting, but I do think it's actually really important. Visas and
Yeah.
being able to get into countries, get out of countries. How does it work, especially with maybe the more challenging countries with being able to
Yeah.
get a visa? Like, you just rock up and be like, hey, stamp my passport, let me in.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously it's case by case, and it depends on the passport that you're carrying. Obviously, with a British passport, Brexit aside, it's still a fairly good passport. It's still appreciated in a lot of countries, and you can get e-visas and a few visa-free countries as well. Saudi Arabia, for example, has an e-visa system in the last 5 years since they've been encouraging tourism, and that works pretty well. Oman has an e-visa. The only challenging visa I got, well, the only officially challenging visa I got in the last couple of years is Algeria. That involved a lot of paperwork, hotel bookings, and a 2-week wait. And that is at the Algerian embassy in London. You have to apply for that visa from your home country, which is a really unusual situation. And then the visa for Libya is an even more special situation. They actually don't issue visas as a matter of course, but I am very, very lucky that a good friend of mine has a contact close to the Libyan government. And so I was able to get a visa that way. So that was a very unusual situation. But otherwise, the countries that I've been in the last few years, it's been even Iran. Most people use a visa agent, and that all went pretty smoothly. I used Tap Persia to get my visa there. So they've been the trickier ones, I suppose.
Now, I do believe that you did overstay your Algerian visa and you had a sort of plan and it ended up backfiring. Would you like to share that story?
Yeah, unfortunately, I mean, as of a year ago, there's essentially no information online about Algeria tourism. They're not promoting tourism for the country, really, especially not independent travel. So even though I'm a member of, different WhatsApp groups for the region, there's just really little practical experience or online information about it. So I did go into the situation pretty blind, and I had to travel to London. I'm lucky I have a brother in London. I could just sit on his couch for 2 weeks while this whole thing happened. I basically arrived at the embassy, without a lot of information. They also didn't answer phone calls or emails in the run up either. So I cycled across London with all the paperwork that I could think I would need. But even then, they sent me away because I was trying to book it for a time that was more than 3 months away, because I obviously wanted to cycle there through France and Spain. So I had to really think on my feet and do some last minute changes. I went to the Holiday Inn or whatever was nearby that I could rebook accommodation on their Wi-Fi, reprint accommodation bookings on their Wi-Fi. And so this sort of last minute change of plans meant that I was only booking 2 weeks worth of visa. But the embassy told me that I would be able to extend the visa from within the country. So I thought, okay, great. So I set off and I got to Algeria and I loved it and it was amazing. And I very quickly started the process of extending the visa. But unfortunately, despite everyone saying, yeah, yeah, it's possible, ultimately, after I sat and waited for about 10 or 12 days, while in that time, of course, my visa expired, every day I was going back to the local police. Hello, what's the situation? I was fine, come back tomorrow. So I overstayed and they knew I was overstaying and they kept saying, come back tomorrow. And then finally, my extension application was rejected. And that was so disappointing. And when I think about it now, probably it's because, like everyone that's, in my situation of the bicycle touring, when you have to book accommodation to get the visa, everyone just books fully refundable hotels and then gets the visa and then cancels the hotel, which is what I did. But of course, when it comes to the extension application, I'm sure they would have looked at the first application and gone, well, she booked this hotel and she hasn't even been in Algiers. She told us, she was going to stay in Algiers for 2 weeks. So I suppose they will have considered that, I was not behaving as maybe they would prefer that I behaved. And, independent travel is not incredibly, promoted. So I suspect that's why they didn't ultimately extend my visa. And they were gracious enough to give me 5 days to basically get from, I was in the west of the country in Tlemcen and I was heading east. I had incredibly this promise on a Libyan visa. So I had to get myself to Algiers, pick up my Libyan visa, and then get myself all the way across the rest of Algeria into Tunisia in order to get out in the 5 days given and then get myself across Tunisia to Libya.
Oof, I'm getting very stressed. Your nomadic lifestyle is meant to be relaxing and just cycling
Yeah.
around countries and exploring.
I don't think I would ever describe it as relaxing. People have this idea about, cycle touring just being like, a lovely ride in the countryside, but it actually is a bit stressful at times.
What was it like finally getting to cycle in Algeria? What was that like culturally? Did you meet many people? What were the roads like? What were the conditions like? How did you find it?
So I only got to ride in Algeria for a few days before I got stuck with this whole visa mess. But in the first few days, there's no warm showers hosts, which is, the cycling hosting community. There's no warm showers hosts in basically in North Africa. They're not big cyclists there. But I did put a sort of shout out on Instagram to see if anybody wanted to, accommodate me for the first couple of nights while I was in the country, while I found my feet and, got a SIM card and, just got myself together in like a brand new scary country. And this beautiful family accepted my request and they showed me around Oran, which is the port city I arrived into. They drove me around. They made sure I ate like all of the best foods. They gave me a pair of shoes, which I like. They saw the state of my shoes, which looked awful, but were still functional. They saw my shoes and tried to, the mother tried to give me her shoes. And I declined because, that's a very British thing to be like, oh, you've already done far too much for me. Like, I can't possibly accept that. And then later, the husband said, quietly to me, look, this is Algeria and, you really ought to accept a gift when it's offered to you. So I belatedly accepted the gift the next day. So they were like just the most amazing welcome into the country. And then I got to cycle for 2 days on my way to Tlemcen. And that was great. There was no police escort. The roads were excellent quality. I don't know if I assumed they would be a little bit bumpier, but they were like beautiful, smooth bitumen. On one occasion, the police I had to go with them back to the police station and just fill out all of my, detailed passport, parents' names and addresses, whatever. But they were really nice. They invited me. It was Friday, so it was like their big like family meal day. So they invited me to have lunch at the police station with them, but I had to crack on. So that was the only sort of issue that I had there. Then I got stuck in Tlemcen for several days, and then I had to get the train across the country. But I did get to cycle for a couple of days to the train station, so that was nice. And then on the final stretch from the most easterly train station to the border, I did pick up an Algerian security detail then against my will. They were claiming that the road was too dangerous. It was just a normal road, but they had my interest at heart, I'm sure. But that was a frustrating way to end my time in the country. Otherwise, the few days that I had there, they've got amazing auberge. You can stay in for like €5. Really good network of places to stay. Really, really friendly people. Great roads. I'm just disappointed I didn't have longer there.
When they're sort of like the police are escorting you, like, are they staying quite far back? Are you still like, do you feel under pressure to cycle a little bit faster? Or, like, are they talking? Like, how does that work?
So these guys in Algeria, they really, this was just, I mean, it's just the police, not Algerians in general, but these police escort, I found it quite frustrating. They even took my passport off me, which I've never
Oh,
experienced before. So and they drove always, I think they aimed to keep me in their sight. I couldn't always see them. Maybe they drove ahead a little bit, drove behind, but it's not great when somebody drives off with your passport. But I just had to trust the process and that, they were just making sure that I mean, why did they need to take my passport? Did they think I was going to, go and do a runner into the bushes or something? So that was the only time I had that escort, and that was in the last 15 kilometers of Algeria towards the border. And oftentimes border regions are a bit sketchy. In Tunisia the year before, when I'd been on the Tunisian side of the same border, I also got Tunisian police escorts as well. But then in Libya, I basically had escorts almost the entire time. I was let go after about a day. I had about a day and a half of cycling in Libya before I was arrested or detained or whatever we should call it. And then from that point onwards, I was fully escorted basically 24 hours a day with two police cars who generally, again, for my safety in inverted commas, but they always had me in their sights. And actually that was pretty nice because Libya is, it is still pretty sketchy place, in places. Again, the absolute vast majority of Libyans are outstanding people, but there are some sketchy groups around. So that was good to have the police escort, even though it is sort of limiting on your sort of autonomy.
when it comes to sort of accommodation over there, you sort of mentioned like albergs, but are there like hostels? Are they on booking.com? Like, is it word of mouth? Were you camping? Could you wild camp? How did you figure out like where you were going to, or was it the police saying, no, you stay here, you stay here?
So in Algeria, I probably would have tried to camp, but I just didn't have the opportunity. And I found really affordable auberge in each of the towns I was passing through. So when there's a €5 auberge, I really don't feel any need to sort of go hunting for wild camping. And then in Tunisia, Algeria, maybe there's a list. I'm sure for Algerians they have access to a list of where all these places are. In Tunisia, there's like there's a PDF in French of all the different auberges across the country, and they have phone numbers that you can call up. So that was a really handy way to get around Tunisia. Although I did also camp in Tunisia, where there was an auberge, but I also got found by the police on at least one occasion camping, and they politely moved me somewhere else. But in Libya, I was just absolutely forbidden from camping. There was just no question about it, unfortunately. And the police, though, they went out of their way to find me a place. Sometimes it meant that I had to cycle far longer in a day than is ideal. I definitely broke my record. I must have done like 150 or 160 kilometer days a couple of times, because where I looked on the map and saw, a nice little quiet mosque, roadside mosque, which in other countries I would have probably slept in Libya, that was, on the one occasion I'm thinking about, they said, no, absolutely not. They told me it was too dangerous and I had to continue on. But they helped me to find accommodation in ways that I couldn't have done on my own. Like they knew, they could speak to somebody in town who knew somebody in town. And like I was always found a place but it required cycling a lot more kilometers than I would have preferred. And of course, they were always amenable to me. If I wanted to put the bike in the back of their, police ute, I could have done that, but I was fiercely determined to cycle every kilometer. So that is on me a little bit. So yeah, no camping in Libya, no auberge in Libya. They wouldn't let me stay in the cheaper hotels either. They were afraid for my safety. They thought that the cheaper hotels had too many, in their words, foreigners, and so it wasn't safe for me. So they only really let me stay in the mid-range hotels.
Did you get to see many of the tourist, like, are there tourist sites to see over there, and is it easy
Yes,
to find? Yeah, what was that
big
like?
time. So Algeria, I missed out on a lot. They have some really cool Roman stuff all over the place. I saw quite a bit in Tlemcen, but there's some amazing Roman sites in the east which I missed. But in Libya, oh my gosh, they have just amazing UNESCO World Heritage sites, these incredible Roman and Greek ruins, like the same sort of quality that you see in Greece and Italy and Turkey, but with just next to no tourists at all. It's absolutely mind blowing. Like, really, some of the most incredible Roman and Greek sites I've ever seen with just a handful of people knocking around. It's just astonishing. And it's a real great shame for Libya. Libya have a whole manner of problems, but it's just a great shame that Libya can't really sort of capitalize on this incredible tourism opportunity that it has.
Did you meet many other, bike packers or bike tourists?
No, because I mean the situation in Libya, like I'm only aware of two other cyclists that have ever. I know personally two cyclists that have crossed Libya once 2 years ago, once 10 years ago, and before that, I think there was a couple maybe like 20 years ago that cycled in the west somewhere. But otherwise, there's just nobody in cycling in Libya. Algeria, I think I've seen on social media like a couple of people cycling in Algeria lately, but that's still very, very unusual. I would be astonished if I crossed paths with another cyclist in Algeria or Libya. In Tunisia, I think there's a few more people in Tunisia cycling.
So this was actually a real privilege then to get the visa, to get over there and even just experience what you did experience.
It's an incredible, incredible privilege. And yeah, I really try not to forget how incredibly fortunate I was. It all happened because I was heading to Algeria and I was having dinner with a friend, and he just casually said, "Would you be interested in going to Libya?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" Like without thinking, and I was like, "Yeah, obviously," without putting any further thought into it. And he said, "Yeah, because I'm working with this guy, he might be able to help get the visa." And both of us were like, "Yeah, probably not going to happen, but let's try." So I think it came as like a big surprise to both of us that I was able to get the visa. So it was an absolute colossal privilege. And people like cyclists in the country, the Libyan Cycling Centre, they went out of their way to help me. Like the amount of paperwork that will have happened behind the scenes, like they organised homestays for me. There's so many checkpoints across the country, and they will have been doing paperwork around that. There was places that they didn't feel like was safe for me to go on the bike, so they drove me to these places. So enormously fortunate for everything that came into place to give me that trip across Libya.
And you've also been sharing these on YouTube as well. You've been creating loads of great videos because you'd only started YouTube, yeah, only, but back in like when we last spoke, sort of like 6 years ago. How is YouTube going? How is documenting and sharing your trips through video formats? How's that working out for you?
I'm learning as I go. I think that, I mean, the quality hopefully has improved. I got a GoPro a few years ago. I recently got some new sound equipment. So the vlogs that I do this coming year will hope like, because that's a common complaint about like the wind noise on the vlog. So hopefully I can take care of that. But yeah, like I think visually the quality's improved with the GoPro. So I'm trying to become more professional, but it's obviously all being done on a sort of mini budget as well. So I'm very grateful to people for putting up with like the poor quality of videography and the poor sound quality as I sort of slowly grow the channel. But yeah, it's the channel's growing, at a decent pace. People give me good feedback about it, with the exception of the sound quality. So yeah, I'm happy with how that's going. It takes up quite a long time now to edit. The vlog's at 8 minutes because that's the magical number for getting the extra adverts in mid roll, as YouTube call it. So it does take a bit of time to edit a vlog each night in the tent. But as long as I'm sitting alone in the tent with no, internet or anything, I might as well edit a vlog while I'm there. So that's fine.
I was going to say, do you ever feel a bit not resentful, but just from my experience, sometimes it can just be quite draining, like constantly thinking about, right, what should I what should I film, and like the editing. I mean, you might be a much more efficient editor than me, but or maybe I just take too much footage. But when you've got like a couple of hours of footage and you've got to cut it down, I did one for my Southwest Coast Path vlogs because I'm putting like 4 days in one, and it's like I've got 2 hours of footage, and I need to get that down to at least sort of like under 10 minutes, and it can be quite time consuming. But are
Yeah.
you still I suppose, enjoying the process, or do you feel as though the sharing takes away maybe from being in the moment?
I mean, it definitely does. I mean, without a shadow of a doubt, it definitely, if when you see a cool thing, you're like, quick, get the camera instead of just enjoying the cool thing. And then like the time spent editing in the tent afterwards, yeah, I'll be honest and say like sometimes I do feel a little bit like, oh God, this is just a lot. But then I mean it's only for a second because then I remind myself that by doing this I get to fund the trip which I'm enjoying doing and wouldn't absolutely, be able to afford to do if I wasn't monetizing the whole process. So yeah, I don't feel grumpy for too long. I regularly, have a word with myself and remind myself the massive benefits of doing this so that I can continue living the life that I want to lead.
Are you still managing to stick to your budget of 100 Aussie dollars a week, or has the budget like
No, the budget is the same. It's been the same for like a decade now. So 100 Aussie used to get me a little bit more, but right now it's only about 50 quid or 55 euros, something like that. But no, I'm still managing on that, which is, I mean, it's fine. It's actually doable. In European countries, in Eastern European countries, I can afford like, the occasional hostel and I camp a lot. In Western European countries, obviously that money would vanish in like one hostel stay, most likely. So I am very, very dependent on warm showers hosts in Western Europe and of course wild camping when it's not snowing. And then as you head, further into the global south, like in Iran, that money, oh, I lived incredibly well on that same money. I was staying in lovely guest houses, eating incredible food, still camping quite a lot of the time, but mostly, guest houses and really good quality living there on 50 pounds a month because without celebrating too much, the Iranian people, their economy is in the absolute toilet. But it means that my 50 quid in Iran goes way further than it does in Europe.
how is the bike doing? Any changes with the bike and the bike setup? Any new gear that you've got? And just remind everyone what bike setup you have.
So it's a touring bike. I converted it, or rather had a mechanic convert it to a belt drive 4 or 5 years ago. So yeah, it must have been just before we spoke. So it's been on a belt drive for the last 40,000 kilometers or so, which I absolutely adore now from having a chain originally, because I got a new frame, which was belt drive compatible. I got a brand new saddle this year. It's done 94,000 kilometers, that original saddle, but it was about to give up. So I was really lucky. The bike manufacturer Vivente sent me a replacement saddle because I think he likes to share my pictures on his social media, and it wasn't looking great with this shabby old saddle. So he very generously sent me a new saddle. But otherwise, it remains about the same. I've got a bike service coming up. I'll take the bike to the local roll-off dealer here in the UK. I'm on a little, Schengen Christmas break because I was in Schengen for almost the 13 weeks maximum. So I have to leave Schengen zone for 13 weeks. And then when that's up, I can return to the Schengen zone and I'll plan to get a boat down to Spain and then cycle through Spain and Portugal and into Morocco and on down the west from there, all being well.
Oh, fantastic. Now, just for somebody, you said about a belt drive. What does that mean?
So in place of where you would ordinarily have a chain on a regular bike, because the gears are internal, you don't have a derailleur. In my case, a roll off, or there's also pinion is the French model. And it just means that instead of having a standard metal chain, it's a carbon belt, which you have to have a specific frame for because the belt doesn't come apart in the way that the chain does. So because the belt doesn't come apart, the frame has to come apart so that you can slip this carbon belt through the frame, reattach, rejoin the frame. And then it's popular with long distance tourers because it's really low maintenance. Unlike a chain, it doesn't stretch. So you don't need to replace it nearly so often. It barely needs cleaning. So it's a big improvement for me.
Does it need oiling?
No. The internal gearbox has oil in it, which you change every 5,000 kilometers, but the belt itself, no.
Wow. And
Yeah.
then what are your tires? I was gonna say, are your tires tireless? But I don't mean that. Are they? What are your
Tubeless.
tires?
They're
Tubeless.
not
Thank you.
tubeless. No, and a lot of people prefer tubeless. I'm very slow on the uptake with these newfangled things. That's why I was late to get the belt drive. No, they're just standard. Usually use Schwalbe marathons, and I think probably quite famously had like way more punctures than my share. But this year, just gone, I upgraded to Schwalbe Marathon Plus, and this is the first year on record in like 9 years of bicycle touring that I didn't get a single puncture all year. So yeah, so
Touch
I'm
wood. Touch wood.
a big advocate of Schwalbe Marathon Plus.
And with the amount of stuff that you're carrying, has that increased, decreased, stayed about the same? Have you do you buy sort of memorable items and then do you send post things home or to your brother in London? What about like the stuff?
I don't really collect souvenirs. I like if it's something I can use. I've got my cups from the World Cup in Qatar is the cup I use while I'm camping. I got some nice sandals in Tunisia. So I really only have sort of room for, souvenirs that have a practical purpose as well. I did get given I got given lots of flowers, but also these awards in inverted commas awards in Libya, for like recognizing my achievements in cycling. So I did keep them because that's particularly special. These incredible things from Libya. So I did cycle with them for a while, and then the next time I had a family member come out and visit me in Europe, I I bundled my mum home with these awards from Libya and a couple of other souvenirs. Maybe people give you a lot of a lot of things in that part of the world. So I had clothing souvenirs and so on to give to mum to bring home. But otherwise, no, I mean, because I'm permanently on the road, if I did buy a souvenir, it would just end up in storage in somebody's house that wasn't mine. So
Yeah.
I generally don't.
How are you doing, I suppose, mentally and emotionally with the day-to-day cycling? Because it's been years and years and years on the road, like no getting tired of it, no wanting to settle down. Are you still like just loving life?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I have no plans to stop cycling. As long as the knees allow, then I hope I can keep cycling for as long as I can. Right now, I'm embarking into Western Africa. I mean, I can see it would comfortably take me 2 years to cycle down the western side of Africa. Another couple of years in the east, maybe, and then I'd like to cycle back towards Australia through Asia. I haven't been back to Korea since I lived there. I'd like to cycle in Japan. I mean, there's so many places I want to cycle, and I'm 47 now, so I'm sort of maybe I've got another good a decade or two ahead of me, all being well. But yeah, there's far more that I want to see than there are years for, I think.
And perimenopause, any impact? Or because I'm just thinking, I'm wondering if the day-to-day cycling and the amount of activity that you're getting daily, and like obviously all the endorphins and happy hormones that get released, like, are you noticing any effects of like perimenopause?
So I actually went through menopause like 3 or 4 years ago, to my complete surprise. And at the time, and I love that we're talking about perimenopause and menopause a lot more now. But at the time, I just didn't know what was happening. I remember distinctly this was happening, would have been around like 2021, 2022, the time that we were talking. But I didn't understand that I was going through perimenopause. And what I do remember is that I found myself maybe not irrationally, but unusually annoyed at men and men's nonsense. And also, I found myself just experiencing these bouts of like extreme sadness. And I was in Iran, like I'd wanted to go to Iran for years. I was delighted to be in Iran. So I was like, why are you sad right now? This is ridiculous. And then after it happened, like maybe the second or the third time, I was able to say, oh, okay, I see what's happening here. This is just a hormonal imbalance. You're not actually sad. Your brain just thinks you're sad because of some weird hormone situation right now. And I was able to sort of recover that way. And keeping in mind this was like, still a bit COVIDy. I had like a lot of brain fog as well. I repeatedly was saying to my family, like, something is wrong with my brain. I don't know what is, like, I can't remember things. I can't think clearly. So at the time, I just thought, oh, maybe this is like a COVID thing. But now, after I had my last period like 3 years ago, now I'm like, oh, That's what that was all about. That was me in perimenopause at like the age of 44 or something.
Wow, so you're fully on the other side then. So are your hormones much more like balanced now? So like no more sort of brain fog?
Yeah, the brain fog is, I'm not saying my brain is incredibly sharp, but it's less fuzzy than it was back then. And the depression bouts have gone away. And another thing as well, the menopause shoulder, which some people talk about, I remember having that like 10 or 15 years ago. Exactly. Like at the time, I was just like, why is my shoulder so stiff? That's weird. And only now I hear about people talking about menopause shoulder. I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, I had that many. Like that was probably my first perimenopause symptom. But yeah, I'm well and truly out the other side now and feeling a lot more stable and relieved to be through it. Even like when people talk about hot sweats, like I was literally in the desert and I was waking up like absolutely saturated in the middle of the night. And at the time I was like, well, I guess I'm just camping in the desert. But again, looking back now, like I think that was probably menopause related as well. Like the nighttime in the desert should never have been that hot. I shouldn't have been waking up covered in cold sweats if it wasn't another perimenopause symptom, which I just didn't, we didn't talk about it as much 4 or 5 years ago. And I certainly had no reason to believe at 42 I was going to be perimenopausal. But yeah, there it is.
That's so interesting. I mean, is it wrong to say congratulations?
No,
Like, well
I'm
done.
glad. I'm really glad to be on the other side of it, to be honest. And even like in my 30s, when like I wasn't interested in having children, like every time I got a period, I'm like, oh, this is a waste of my time. So yeah, be careful what you wish for because they've gone now, and now I need to think about bone density and all of that stuff. But yeah, it's a relief to be through it.
You're absolutely right. Like it hasn't been talked about as much, and I'm even learning just from more of the conversations that I've been having that menopause can start as early as like 35.
Yeah.
In some women, it can almost be like this 10-year process. And in my head, I think because also like menopause can not happen for some women until 53 or something, like early 50s. And so like I'm not actually like a little bit shocked. I was like, oh, okay, all done and dusted by 47. Because I'm thinking, oh, I've only got a couple more years. And then, oh, part of me is like, is it going to be over that quickly for me? Probably not. I don't know. We'll see. I'll share it on the podcast when I find out.
We look forward to hearing.
Yeah. But your next adventure sounds amazing. So the west coast of Africa, incredible. Get down to South Africa, head up the east coast, over to A. Oh my God. Yeah, that's years. Like
Yeah.
but like not in a bad way, as in like, wow, that's going to be epic.
I know. I'm so excited. I'm using this downtime at my parents' place over winter to plan out, my sort of routing and look at visas and start planning ahead for West Africa. And I am incredibly excited. I've been to Morocco not by bicycle, but I've been there a couple of times before, so I'm very excited to return. And then heading south from there, Mauritania, and then Senegal and Gambia. I've never cycled in sub-Saharan Africa. I took my dad to Ethiopia a year ago because he's always wanted to go there. And despite my best efforts, I wasn't able to cycle there because of political situations in that part of the world a few years ago. So it was time to take my dad on that trip. So that was my first sub-Saharan visit. So not by bicycle. So I'm really excited to start traveling in that part of Northwest Africa, and especially in the places I've been reading about for years about voodoo and all these sort of magic men, and I'm incredibly excited about that.
And you're going to be documenting and sharing as you have done through blogs and vlogs and on your social media. Helen, how can people connect with you and follow along with this incredible journey? Where should they go?
My Instagram is probably a good place to start. That's hells.on.wheels, one L in hells. But otherwise, you can just access all of my things, like every podcast interview, every all my social media, YouTube, and everything, just by going to hellsonwheels.bio.link.
Fantastic. I will include all those links and your links to your YouTube channel as well. I'm just going to say, so you've got 9,570 odd subscribers, which is absolutely awesome. Getting close to
I'm
that
trying to get to 10,000. Maybe
Yeah.
maybe this podcast will be the spike to get me to 10,000.
Oh, I would hope so, because I've also heard it's the hardest on YouTube is going from 0 to 10K. And
Oh,
then
okay.
apparently it gets easier to go from 10K to 100,000. So,
Oh,
um,
crikey.
so that will be really interesting. So yeah, like please, obviously, I'll share all the links. Go and watch some of all of the videos. I think it's
All of
amazing.
them, please.
All the videos, what you're sharing. But Helen, honestly, so great to catch up with you. But I'd love for you, to share your final words of advice, final words of wisdom for other women who just maybe want to do something different, take on new challenges, take up bicycle and cycle touring, and see more of the world and explore more and live life on their terms. Apart from just do it, what advice would you like to share?
I think I was thinking about this, and in terms of my Libya adventure this year, my advice is to just say yes to an opportunity, and you can work out the details on the way. But if you start by saying yes, then everything will flow from there. But the thing is to accept without hesitation, and then figure it out from that point on.
Absolutely. Say yes, accept without hesitation. I love that. Hal, thank you so much for coming back on the Tough Girl Podcast Extra to share more about what you've been up to over the past sort of 5 years. We will definitely have to do a catch up. Maybe when you get to South Africa in a couple of years, just to see
Awesome.
what's been going on and just learn more about your incredible adventures. It's going to be amazing to follow along with your journey.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Can't wait. Can't wait to get back on the road.
Hey, tribe, how are you all doing? I really hope you enjoyed that Tough Girl Podcast Extra episode with Helen. Like I mentioned at the start, if you haven't listened to the first episode that we did with Helen, please do go back and listen to it. If you visit toughgirlchallenges.com, there is a search bar at the very top. Just type in Helen's name or type in cycling, and amazing Tough Girl Podcast episodes will show up. I've been doing a bit of cycling recently, so I had an amazing mobility and strength training session. I'm currently in week 3 of my training plan for training for the GR5. So I did my 60-minute workout with Franco, my PT, followed by zone 2 training on the bike for 90 minutes, which was pretty awesome, actually. Really enjoyed it. I haven't been on the bike for a while, so that was really good. But I've got 2 more weeks of this training plan. Then I've got a deload week, and then I've got another 5 weeks, and then a deload week. And then we're getting very close to the start of the adventure. So you want to follow along with my GR5 adventure planning and training and all that good stuff. Make sure you are following me on Instagram. I'm also going to be writing a few blog posts, which will be shared on toughgirlchallenges.com. And I will be sharing and documenting the journey as I do it when I start towards the end of July. And I'm going to be out there so GR5 runs from Holland, Hook of Holland, all the way down to Nice. It's about 2,200 kilometers, and I'll be starting that at the end of July, and I'll have August and September to do it. Basically, I have to do it in less than 90 days because that is only the amount of time that I have due to the EU regulations when it comes to visas for British people going into Europe, unless I get a visa, but I don't think I'll need to get one. 90 days should be more than enough time. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you would like to support the work that I'm doing to increase the amount of female role models in the media, especially in relation to adventure and physical challenges, please do visit Patreon, patreon.com/Tough Girl Podcast. Right, I think that's everything. So all that's left for me to say is, wherever you are, whatever you are doing, give it your all, give it 110%, get after it, go for it, believe in yourself, because I believe in you. Take care, lots of love, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.